What did you overhear someone talking about you in a language they didn't think you understood? I got hired at the warehouse in early March. The pay was decent and the work was simple enough. Move boxes, scan inventory, keep the shipping floor organized. My supervisor, Kate, introduced me to the team on my first day. There were 8 of us total. 4 spoke English as their first language. The other 4 were Polish and spoke to each other constantly in their native language during breaks and slow periods. I'm half Polish. My mom emigrated when she was 20 and married my dad. She raised me speaking both languages until I was about 12. Then we moved states and I stopped using Polish except when visiting family, but I understood it perfectly. I just never mentioned it at work because nobody asked. The Polish guys were named Marek, Tomasz, Piotr, and Jacek. They were friendly enough to my face, always nodding hello and helping me lift heavy boxes when I struggled. But during lunch on my 3rd day, I overheard them speaking in Polish in the break room. I was in the bathroom stall and they didn't realize I was there. Marek said something about me that made me freeze, but I didn't understand the context. I heard my name and then words I couldn't quite piece together because they were speaking quickly. When I came out to wash my hands, they all smiled at me like nothing had happened. That week, I started paying closer attention to their conversations, small comments here and there that I'd catch while working nearby. They'd look at me, then speak to each other in Polish, then laugh. Not mean laughter exactly, more like they were sharing a private joke. On Friday, Kate called me into her office and said some inventory had gone missing from my section, about $2,000 worth of electronics. She asked if I'd seen anything suspicious. I told her I hadn't, and she seemed to believe me, but said she had to file a report. That afternoon, I noticed Tomasz watching me constantly. Every time I turned around, he was there, standing near my station or walking past. When I went to the bathroom, he followed and stood outside talking to Jacek. In Polish, he said something about timing and making sure everything was ready. I didn't catch the rest. The next week got stranger. Equipment I needed for work would go missing. My scanner would disappear and I'd find it in someone else's station. My locker combination stopped working and I had to get maintenance to cut the lock off. Inside, someone had taken my jacket. Kate said there'd been more inventory discrepancies, always in sections where I'd been working. She was starting to look at me differently, suspicious. During a break, I sat in my car and heard Marek, Tomasz, and Piotr talking in the parking lot. They were standing next to Marek's truck 2 spaces away and didn't see me. Marek said in Polish that everything was going according to plan, that I was the perfect person for this. Young, new, no connections to anyone at the warehouse. Piotr asked how much longer and Marek said just another week or 2. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Another week of what? Tuesday morning, Kate called me in again. She looked stressed. 3 more inventory reports in my sections. The total was up to $8,000 now. She said she didn't want to accuse me of anything, but the pattern was concerning. I tried to defend myself, but what could I say? I had no proof of anything. That afternoon, Jacek approached me during a break and asked in English if everything was okay. I said yes, and he nodded slowly. Then he said something in Polish that he clearly thought I wouldn't understand. Something about how they'd finish this by Friday and I'd be gone by Monday. I kept my face neutral and walked away. Thursday night, I stayed late, hiding in the bathroom after my shift ended. I waited until the building was almost empty. Then I heard voices near the shipping dock. Marek, Tomasz, Piotr, and Jacek, speaking Polish and moving boxes. I pulled out my phone and started recording. And that's when I finally understood what they'd really been planning for me since day one. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I hit record on my phone, keeping to the shadows as I watched them load box after box into the back of Marek's truck. The security light casts long shadows across the loading dock, illuminating their faces in harsh relief as they work. These are the same electronics that have been missing from my sections all week, the same items Kate's been questioning me about. My hands tremble slightly as I realize the full scope of what they've been doing. They weren't just stealing inventory, they were systematically setting me up to take the fall. The new guy with no connections or allies at the warehouse, the perfect scapegoat. Hurry up, Marek hisses in Polish. We need to finish before the night guard makes his rounds. Piotr grunts as he hefts another box. This is the last of it. 8,000 worth, just like you wanted. Perfect, Tomasz replies. By Monday, the American will be fired, maybe even arrested. No one will believe him over 4 of us. I step forward slightly to get a better angle with my phone, and my foot connects with an empty pallet. The sound echoes through the loading dock. 4 heads snap in my direction. Who's there? Jacek calls out, switching to English. I step into the light, phone still recording. Just me, the American you've been setting up. Their faces drain of color simultaneously. Marek recovers first, his expression shifting from shock to a forced smile. Friend, this is not what it looks like, he says in broken English. We are just organizing inventory. At midnight, into your personal truck? I keep my voice steady despite my racing heart. After making sure items would go missing from every section I worked, Tomasz steps forward, hands raised placatingly. You not understand situation is complicated. We explain. Actually, I cut him off, switching to fluent Polish. I understand perfectly. You needed someone to blame for your theft ring, and I was the perfect target. No friends, no connections, knew enough that no one would question my guilt. Their jaws drop in perfect unison. If I weren't so angry, it might be comical. You speak Polish? Piotr stammers. My mother is Polish, I reply coldly. I've understood every word you've said about me since day one. Before they can respond, the door to the warehouse swings open. Kate stands there, eyes widening as she takes in the scene, the 4 men, the loaded truck, me with my phone recording everything. What's going on here? She demands. Marek launches into a rapid explanation in English. This is not what it seems. He is helping us load these returns. They're stealing inventory, I interrupt. They've been doing it for weeks and setting me up to take the blame. I have them on video, admitting to it. I hold up my phone, still recording, and I understand Polish. I've been recording their entire conversation. Kate's expression shifts from confusion to anger as she pulls out her own phone. I'm calling the police. Marek turns to me, suddenly desperate. Please, you don't understand. We needed perfect person to blame. Someone with no connection connections, no friends to vouch for them. You were ideal. So you decided to ruin my life? I ask, barely containing my anger. It was just business, Jacek mutters. Kate finishes her call and stands guard by the door. Police are on their way. Nobody leaves. The next 20 minutes are tense. The four men huddle together, occasionally glaring at me or whispering among themselves. I stand near Kate, translating their Polish conversations for her in real time. They're discussing whether they should try to run, I tell her. Marek thinks they should stay and deny everything. Kate shakes her head in disbelief. I'm so sorry I suspected you. When the inventory kept going missing from your sections, I thought, that's exactly what they wanted you to think, I reply. When the police arrive, 2 patrol cars with flashing lights, the officers take statements from everyone. I show them the video on my phone and translate the Polish conversations. They search Marek's truck, finding all the stolen inventory, neatly boxed and ready for transport. Total value? One officer asks as they catalog the items. About $8,000, Kate confirms, checking her inventory list. The police handcuff all 4 men, reading them their rights as they're led to the patrol cars. Marek looks back at me once, his expression a mixture of anger and grudging respect. I meet his gaze steadily until he looks away. After they're gone, Kate turns to me in the empty parking lot. The night is quiet now, just the distant sound of traffic and the buzz of security lights. I owe you the biggest apology, she says, running a hand through her hair. I really thought, God, I'm so embarrassed. You were supposed to think that? I reply. That was their whole plan. Why didn't you tell anyone you spoke Polish? She asks. I shrug. Nobody asked. And honestly, I haven't used it regularly since I was a kid. I didn't think it mattered until I started overhearing them talking about me. Kate shakes her head. Well, I'm glad you kept it to yourself. Otherwise, they might have picked someone else to frame, and we might never have caught them. She puts a hand on my shoulder. Thank you for what you did tonight. You saved the company thousands and cleared your name. What happens now? I ask. Now, she says with a tired smile, we both go home and get some sleep. Tomorrow, there'll be paperwork and probably more questions from the police. But your job is secure, more than secure. I'll make sure everyone knows what really happened. As I drive home that night, I can't help but think about how differently things could have gone if I hadn't stayed late, if I hadn't understood Polish, if I hadn't decided to investigate on my own. Sometimes the smallest details, like a language learned from your mother as a child, can change everything. The police station is surprisingly quiet for a Saturday afternoon. Detective Morris leads me to a small interview room with a table, 3 chairs, and a recording device. The overhead fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows that make the room feel colder than it is. I appreciate you coming in, he says, gesturing for me to sit. Your recordings are incredibly helpful, but we need to go through everything in detail. For the next 2 hours, I translate every Polish word from my recordings. Each threat, each admission, each casual comment about how they'd systematically framed me. Detective Morris takes meticulous notes, occasionally stopping the playback to ask clarifying questions. You understand what they're saying perfectly? He asks, studying my face for any hesitation. Yes, my mother is from Krakow. I grew up speaking Polish at home. He nods, then slides a folder across the table. These 4 men, Marek, Tomasz, Piotr, and Jacek, they're claiming you misunderstood them, that their English is poor and you're twisting their words. I can't help but laugh. I translated what they said in Polish, not English. They didn't know I understood them. That's what I thought. He closes the folder and leans forward. Here's the thing. We believe these guys are connected to a larger operation. We've had reports of similar thefts at 4 other warehouses across the county. Same MO Electronics disappearing, blame shifted to new employees. My stomach tightens. So, this wasn't just about me? No, we think it's organized, professional. He taps his pen against the table, which is why I'm concerned about your safety. I'm about to ask what he means when my phone buzzes with a text. I glance down and feel the blood drain from my face. Wiemy gdzie mieszkasz. Powinieneś trzymać język za zębami. Detective Morris notices my expression. What is it? A text, in Polish. My voice sounds distant to my own ears. It says, we know where you live. You should keep your mouth shut. He immediately takes my phone, photographs the message, and asks for the number. Unknown, I tell him, probably a burner phone. By the time I leave the station, it's dark outside. Detective Morris arranges for a patrol car to follow me home, but it does little to calm my nerves. The entire drive, I check my rearview mirror at every stoplight, scanning for cars that might be following me. Monday morning, Kate meets me at the warehouse entrance, her face drawn with concern. I heard about the text message. Why didn't you call me? I didn't want to worry you over the weekend, I say. Though the truth is, I spent those 2 days barely sleeping, jumping at every sound in my apartment. From now on, security will walk you to your car after every shift, she says, brooking no argument. We're taking this very seriously. The day passes in a blur of inventory checks and sidelong glances from coworkers who've clearly heard something about what happened. By afternoon, the story has morphed into various exaggerated versions. I overhear someone in the break room saying I single-handedly fought off the thieves. As promised, a security guard named Miguel escorts me to my car that evening. Crazy business with those Polish guys, he comments as we cross the parking lot. Never would have pegged them as thieves. That was the point, I reply, unlocking my car. No one suspected them. The drive home is uneventful, but as I approach my apartment door, something feels off. The door is slightly ajar, just an inch, but enough to send adrenaline coursing through my veins. I stand frozen in the hallway, keys clutched in my hand like a weapon. After a moment's hesitation, I push the door open slowly. Nothing seems disturbed at first glance. My laptop still sits on the coffee table. The TV is untouched. My wallet remains where I left it on the kitchen counter. But then I notice it. The framed photo of my mother and me that normally sits on my bookshelf is now on the side table by the couch. It's a small thing, something most people wouldn't notice. But I know I didn't move it. Someone has been in my apartment, touching my things, sending a message. I back out immediately and call Detective Morris, who arrives with 2 officers 20 minutes later. They sweep the apartment but find nothing else out of place. No fingerprints, no evidence of forced entry. They're trying to intimidate you, Morris says as we stand in my living room. Classic tactic, make you feel unsafe safe in your own home. It's working. That night, I push my dresser in front of my bedroom door and sleep with a baseball bat beside my bed. The next morning, I approach Kate before my shift begins. I need a transfer, I tell her, my voice low so others won't hear. Different warehouse, different location. These guys have friends and they know where I live. Kate shakes her head sympathetically. I can't do that. The police specifically asked us to keep you here. You're their key witness. You understand Polish. You caught them in the act, and you can translate their conversations in real time. So, I'm bait? I ask, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. No, you're protected, she counters. We've doubled security, installed new cameras, and the police have increased patrols around your apartment building. Moving you would just make you harder to protect. I want to argue further, but I know she's right. Running won't solve anything, it might even make things worse. As I'm heading to my section to begin work, a man I've never seen before approaches me. He's older, maybe in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and the weathered look of someone who's worked in warehouses his entire life. You're the one who caught Marek and his crew, he says. It's not a question. Yes, I reply cautiously, studying his face for any sign of hostility. I'm Andre. I supervise the night shift. He glances around to make sure no one is within earshot. We need to talk. Not here. Meet me at the coffee shop across the street after your shift. It's important. Before I can ask what this is about, he walks away, leaving me standing there with a growing sense that whatever is happening is much bigger than four men stealing electronics from a warehouse. I'm barely out of the parking lot when I notice the older man Andre standing by the coffee shop entrance, hands in his pockets, scanning the area with practiced vigilance. There's something about his posture that seems off for a warehouse supervisor. Too alert, too measured. I hesitate before crossing the street, my instincts screaming caution after everything that's happened. But if he wanted to hurt me, he could have done it in the warehouse without witnesses. I take a deep breath and head toward him. You came, he says, relief evident in his voice. Let's go inside. Corner table. The coffee shop is nearly empty this late in the afternoon. We order black coffee for him, cappuccino for me, and settle into a booth far from the windows. Andre waits for the barista to move out of earshot before leaning forward. I'm not actually a warehouse supervisor, he says quietly, reaching into his jacket. My body tenses, ready to bolt, but what he pulls out isn't a weapon. It's a badge. Police badge. Detective Nowak, Organized Crime Unit. I've been undercover at the warehouse for 8 months. I stare at the badge, then at his face, searching for deception but finding none. You're police? He nods, sliding the badge back into his pocket. We've been tracking a sophisticated theft ring operating across multiple warehouses in the city. Electronics, mainly high-value items that can be moved quickly through black market channels. Marek and his crew, I say. They're just foot soldiers. The operation is much larger than those four. He takes a sip of his coffee. When you exposed them, you disrupted one cell of a much bigger network. That's why you received threats. That's why someone entered your apartment. My skin prickles at the memory of finding my mother's photo moved. How do you know about that? Detective Morris briefed me. We're working the same case from different angles. He's handling the official investigation. I'm still undercover trying to identify the entire network. The barista delivers our drinks. We sit in silence until she's gone. So what do you want from me? I ask, though I already suspect the answer. We need your help, he says, confirming my fears. You speak Polish fluently. You've already proven you can handle pressure. And most importantly, you're already involved. You want me to be bait? I say flatly, echoing my earlier complaint to Kate. Nowak shakes his head. Not bait, an asset. The 4 men you caught have been replaced already. New crew, same operation, but they're being more careful now, speaking only in Polish when discussing business, using code words. And you want me to listen in. We want you to wear a wire. Continue working normally, but record any conversations you overhear. We'll give you a panic button direct line to officers stationed nearby. I wrap my hands around my coffee cup, feeling its warmth against my palms. What about the threats? Someone was in my apartment. We'll have surveillance on your building 24/7. You'll be protected. He leans forward. This is bigger than just warehouse theft. The money is funding other criminal enterprises. We need to stop it at the source. I think about the fear I've been living with since receiving that text message. About the violated feeling of knowing someone was in my home, touching my things. Running won't make that go away. These people know who I am now. If I help you, I say slowly, what happens afterward? We catch them all. You go back to your life. Or, he adds with a slight smile, the department always needs good translators. 3 days later, I'm back at work with a nearly invisible wire taped to my chest and a panic button disguised as a keychain in my pocket. I've been trained on how to position myself to capture conversations, how to act natural while eavesdropping, and what code words to listen for. The new Polish workers are quieter than Marek's crew, more disciplined. For 2 days, I catch nothing useful, just normal work conversations, complaints about schedules, talk about families back home. On the 3rd day, I'm restocking shelves in aisle 7 when I hear them. 2 men speaking Polish in low voices on the other side of the metal shelving. The replacement crew is working out well, the first voice says. No mistakes like the last group. Kazimierz was furious about that, the second man replies. 4 idiots caught on camera, talking openly about the operation. My heart rate spikes at the mention of a name I haven't heard before. Kazimierz. I carefully slide a box into place, angling my body so the wire can pick up their conversation more clearly. Tonight's shipment needs to go through the north loading dock. The first man continues. Camera 3 has a blind spot there. Security doesn't patrol that area between 1:15 and 1:45. How many units? 25 boxes, high-end tablets, worth at least 15,000. I pretend to check my inventory list, straining to hear more. They mention specific storage locations, item numbers, even which security guard is easiest to avoid. It's methodical, professional, nothing like Marek's sloppy operation. Kazimierz wants no mistakes this time, the first man says firmly. He's coming personally to oversee the transfer. My breath catches. The leader. Coming here tonight. I continue working, moving through my tasks while mentally recording every detail to relay to Detective Nowak after my shift. That evening, I meet Nowak in an unmarked car 3 blocks from the warehouse. I tell him everything I heard, watching his expression grow increasingly convincingly focused. As I mention Kazimierz, this is it, he says, already reaching for his phone. We've been trying to identify the head of the operation for months. If he's coming tonight, we can catch the entire crew in action. Hours later, I sit in a surveillance van with Nowak and 3 other officers, watching live feeds from hidden cameras they've installed throughout the warehouse. The night shift is in full swing, but most workers are concentrated in the south section, far from the north loading dock mentioned in the conversation I overheard. At exactly 1:17 a.m., a panel van pulls up to the north dock. 3 men emerge, followed by a 4th taller, older, with an air of authority that's visible even through the grainy footage. That's him, Nowak whispers. Kazimierz Wolski, known associate of organized crime in Poland, disappeared from our radar 5 years ago. We watch as the warehouse door opens from inside. 2 of the Polish workers I'd overheard earlier appear, greeting the men from the van. They begin loading boxes, the tablets mentioned in their conversation. Now, Nowak says into his radio, and everything happens at once. Police vehicles converge on the loading dock from all directions, lights flashing. Officers in tactical gear pour into the warehouse from multiple entrances. Through the camera feeds, I watch Kazimierz make a break for it, only to be tackled by 2 officers near the fence line. Within minutes, it's over. 7 men in handcuffs, including Kazimierz. 25 boxes of tablets recovered before they could vanish into the black market. As the officers process the scene, Nowak turns to me with a rare smile. You did good. Your recordings gave us exactly what we needed. I watch the officers lead Kazimierz into a police car, his face a mask of cold fury. What happens now? Now, Nowak says, we dismantle his entire operation. And you, he adds, get to go home knowing you helped take down one of the biggest theft rings in the city. For the first time since finding my apartment door ajar, I feel the knot of fear in my chest begin to loosen. It's not over. There will be statements to give, possibly testimony in court, but tonight, at least, I won't be looking over my shoulder, wondering if someone is watching me. Tonight, I'm the one who did the watching, and it made all the difference. The preliminary hearing is held in a small, wood-paneled courtroom that smells faintly of furniture, polish, and stale coffee. I sit at a table beside the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Miss Reynolds, who spent 3 hours prepping me yesterday on what to expect. Just translate exactly what you hear on the recordings, she had instructed. Don't embellish, don't interpret, just the words. Now I watch as Marek, Tomasz, Piotr, and Jacek are led into the courtroom in handcuffs and orange jumpsuits. They look smaller somehow, diminished by captivity. Marek catches my eye briefly before looking away, his expression unreadable. Detective Nowak sits behind me, a reassuring presence after weeks of working together to bring down Kazimierz's operation. The raid that night at the warehouse was just the beginning. What followed was a meticulous unraveling of a theft ring that spanned 5 warehouses across the city and had stolen over $2 million in electronics over the past 18 months. All rise, the bailiff announces as the judge enters. The hearing proceeds with clinical efficiency. The prosecution presents evidence. My original recordings from the night I caught Marek's crew, security footage from the warehouse, inventory records showing the systematic theft patterns. When it's my turn to testify, I walk to the witness stand, feeling the weight of 8 pairs of hostile eyes from the defense table. Mr. Mitchell, Miss Reynolds begins, could you please translate the conversation you recorded on the night of March 12th? I listen to the recording played back in the silent courtroom, then translate each damning line. The casual way they discussed framing me, the methodical planning, the contempt in their voices when they called me the American. With each translated sentence, I watch their faces harden. And did you record any subsequent conversations in Polish that pertain to this case? Miss Reynolds asks. Yes, I reply. During the investigation that followed, I recorded conversations between new warehouse workers discussing shipment schedules, security blind spots, and mentioning someone named Kazimierz as their leader. The defense attorney tries to discredit me during cross-examination, suggesting I might have misunderstood Polish idioms or cultural references. I respond by translating a complex passage of Polish legal text the attorney places before me, watching his face fall as he realizes his strategy has backfired. By the time the hearing concludes, the judge has more than enough evidence to move forward with a trial. Marek and his crew are let out, and I exhale slowly, feeling a tension release that I didn't realize I'd been carrying. Well done, Detective Nowak says, as we leave the courthouse. Your translations were perfect, clear, precise. What happens now? I ask, squinting in the bright spring sunshine. Now we prepare for Kazimierz's trial. That's the big one. He checks his watch. But first, I think someone's waiting to talk to you. I follow his gaze to see Kate standing by a row of benches near the courthouse steps. She waves and walks over, professional as always in her blazer and tailored pants, but with a warmth in her expression I've never seen before. I just heard from corporate, she says after greeting Nowak. They're creating a new position based on everything that happened. Inventory security specialist. The job's yours if you want it. What exactly would I be doing? I ask, caught off guard. Overseeing security protocols for all our warehouses, training staff on theft prevention, working with police when necessary. She smiles. And your Polish language skills will be officially added to your personnel file, with a substantial pay increase, of course. 2 months ago, I was just trying to keep my head down at a new job. Now, I'm being offered a position created specifically for me. The irony isn't lost on me. Marek and his crew thought I was the perfect scapegoat because I had no connections, no allies. Their plan backfired in the most spectacular way possible. I'll take it, I tell Kate, and we shake hands on the courthouse steps. The trial of Kazimierz Wolski begins 6 weeks later. The evidence against him is overwhelming. Detailed employee files found at his home with notes about who might be vulnerable to pressure or bribes, warehouse blueprints with security blind spots marked, and ledgers tracking every stolen item. The prosecution presents a meticulous case, showing how he orchestrated thefts across multiple locations, always using new immigrants as his foot soldiers, people desperate enough to take risks for quick money. I testify again, this time translating recordings from the night of the raid and explaining the coded language language they used. When the jury returns after just 4 hours of deliberation, their verdict is unanimous, guilty on all counts. Kazimierz receives a 10-year sentence for organizing the theft operation. Marek, Tomasz, Piotr, and Jacek each get 3 years less than I expected, but they were just pawns in a larger game. After the sentencing, Detective Morris approaches me outside the courtroom. "You've got a knack for this kind of work," he says. "Ever consider a career in law enforcement?" I laugh. "I think I'll stick with warehouse security for now. Less getting shot at." "Fair enough," he replies with a smile, "but the offer stands if you change your mind." My new position keeps me busy as the company implements security protocols based on what we learned from the case. I travel between warehouses, training staff on what to watch for, where vulnerabilities exist, how theft rings operate. My Polish comes in handy more often than I expected, especially at locations with large Eastern European workforces. 3 months after Kazimierz's sentencing, Kate organizes a company dinner to celebrate the successful implementation of our new security measures. The executive team is there, along with warehouse managers from across the region. I'm presented with an award and a substantial bonus check for my role in stopping the theft operation. As dinner winds down and people break into smaller conversation groups, one of my coworkers asks the question I've been fielding for months. "So how did you learn to speak Polish so well? Did you study it in college or something?" The table goes quiet, everyone curious about the answer. For the first time, I feel comfortable sharing the truth. "My mother emigrated from Krakow when she was 19, I explain. "She met my father here, but she always insisted I learn her language. We spoke Polish at home my entire childhood." "And you never mentioned this when you applied for the job?" someone asks. I shrug. Nobody asked. It didn't seem relevant for warehouse work. Kate laughs from across the table. "Well, it turned out to be very relevant. If you hadn't understood what those guys were saying about you, we might never have caught them. Sometimes the things we don't tell people end up being the most important," I reply, raising my glass in a toast to unexpected skills and the moments they become useful. As everyone drinks to that, I think about how differently things might have gone if I'd mentioned my Polish background from the beginning. Marek and his crew would have chosen a different target. The theft ring might still be operating. I wouldn't be sitting here with a new title and a bonus check. Sometimes keeping part of yourself hidden can be a strength, and sometimes revealing that hidden part at exactly the right moment can change everything.